KTN News.
So in one way or the other, Raila was defending his social welfare economic model right there. And perhaps let's listen in from the ANC member right here, because your party leader, Sakwa, was questioning where exactly that money will come from in order to sort of give 6,000 to those vulnerable families. Do you hold the same question? And when they answer in terms of sealing corruption loopholes, your economist, is this truly possible?
I think that source of funding is probably non-existent. If we knew how to seal those loopholes, presumably we would have done some sealing, unless we say boldly that there has been a willful neglect and willingness to let that go. So that, as a source of money, is a tricky one. But the idea of giving 6,000 shillings per vulnerable household as a figure, you can do 6,000. What I think, when you commit 6,000 and you commit the number of households to be about 8 million, then you're not likely to meet that. But if they committed just 6, and then perhaps the rest can depend on the budget, which means it could be only so many thousands that they can afford, that may be doable. But I think the one point that the former Prime Minister raises that's useful as a broad policy is that social protection is needed, that social protection is important. I think when you go to quantification, which we must do, those figures would be substantially revised. When you use corruption as the source of the reduction or elimination of corruption as a source of funding, you are now, I think, that's a lofty goal, because I think we can say with confidence that the institutions in Kenya and the inclination of the leaderships in Kenya are not going to be anywhere as aggressive and as robust in fighting corruption. I don't expect that to be part of the agenda of the two leading contenders that I've already had. It wasn't really even a big one when we were dealing with BBI, except to say that, determine the cases quickly. Okay. But I think we should start now to demonstrate that it can be done then.
Interesting. Before we give Martins a chance perhaps to defend his party leader, Mwakesi, your take on the social protection welfare and the viability as an economic model. Shall we be putting Kenyans through more taxes in order to finance this? How do you look at it?
Well, Jesse, I personally don't. I think the idea of social protection is warranted, yes. However, the numbers that have been put out by Raila Odinga on this particular issue, I do not find them feasible. He's been talking about creating savings out of the corruption that's been looted every day. He's using a figure that President Uhuru Kenyatta arbitrarily called out, 2 billion shillings per day. And he just said 2 billion times 365 makes 700 billion. So out of 700 billion, I can be able to get XYZ to pay for this social protection program. That is not warranted. It's not justifiable, as Sako Bonyasi has said. It would be more prudent if he could be more stronger on the aspects of how he'd be able to rejuvenate the economy going forward. And what the Kenyans want to hear is, what are your real thoughts about jump-starting this economy post-COVID? And that's what he has been struggling to be able to put across to Kenyans. That's why he went to this very easy, catchy thing of just saying, I'll put money in different households, 6,000 bob every single month. I think it's a very lazy way of looking at political policy making. I think they can do better. It will be better if he uses very critical modeling mechanisms and show Kenyans where this money is coming from and how to be able to give it to Kenyans. Just to quickly point out, in the coast, it's interesting that Raila is going back there, and he knows that his traditional playground has been greatly eaten into by William Ruto and his bottom-up economic model, because he's directly talking to Kenyans, telling them that I'll be able to help you with your small businesses, with your small economies, to be able to grow you and get you out of this poverty that you're experiencing right now. Now, if you're not able to directly talk to people in a cogent, clear manner and get them to understand where you can be able to take them going forward, then you cannot be able to really sell your agenda clearly to them. And he still has a lot of work cut out for him. I wish him well well in his coastal tours. He needs that block as much as possible in order to be able to counter the surge that William Ruto is making going forward. And finally, I just also wanted to say it's important, OKA, please come to a position whereby you can be able to give us a presidential candidate. But from what we're hearing from Gideon Moi, it seems OKA all along has been working to support Raila Odinga. If so, please go ahead and make it very clear so that we know it's a two-horse race and we can be able to now go forward and begin aligning. Some of us as politicians, we also need to know in what trajectory to put ourselves in. And Kenyans are asking which direction should they be able to go. But this lack of direction from OKA is causing Kenyans unwarranted unease. And it's important that as the leaders, because they hold very significant blocks and they have significant influence, and they're also giving Kenyans a third hope that possibly there can be someone else who can be able to take over the reins. It's important that as OKA, they are able to be very categorical in which direction they are pulling, so that now we can be sure going into the new year that these are the people who we are counting on to lead the country into the future.
Martins, a lot has been said. Perhaps let's start with that question. Where is the money?
Thank you, Rogers. But let me tell Mackenzie, I think I can read him well as he presents. Soon we will ask him to declare. But I can boldly tell him that there are 2 tracks to Canaan. Check the one on the right with the big R. That is where you should lean to, especially when you talk about the coastal region.
All right.
Rogers, there's something here which we have to talk boldly about. Poor people, sick people cannot grow economy. And now with the COVID, many people, even those who are in the middle strata, the middle class, many have been pushed down to below poverty level. What my party leader is doing, and I want it to be very clear, if you energize the households, some will be lifted up even beyond stipend. But there will be energy, they will be working hard, they will be producing, and the economy will be growing. There is a lot of money in this country, but a lot of it is being stolen. Let us be clear on that. A lot of it is being siphoned through the fingers. Those are a part of the money that will be harnessed in order to give social protection. And this is globally, if you check even the Western countries, this is not a new thing. If you are not working, or if you are working below the average, the government supports you, maybe with food stamps, or you are given stipend every month, because this one plows back into the economy. It's not just going anywhere. They will come back, and some people, when they come up, they will be relegated. They will be taken off that social protection because they will be productive. So let us look at this in a broader picture, not only just dishing every day the same household. Perhaps that household is educating somebody who is finishing and will get a job, and then can be revised, can be reviewed later, and be taken out, and others who have fallen through the cracks are put in. So this is something that is well researched. The money will be there, and I think after it all, the economy will grow because you will be having more energetic and healthy community.
Okay, interesting. And back to you, Mwakesi. Since we were talking about politics, let's talk about politics of philanthropy just briefly. And the DP has come under fire in terms of using donations, according to his critics, to woo voters in one way or the other. And they say one should campaign on a platform of ideologies, not money. Democracy can't be sold. Therefore, ideologies which cannot be sold as well. Where do you sit on this? Is the DP perhaps at fault for using donations, even though we know it's his private funds? Is he at fault from where you sit?
I don't find anything wrong with the Deputy President going to a particular region, having a conversation with market women who are already in the marketplace doing their business, and after discussing with them, having taken some of their time, boosting their businesses for the day. and doing the same with boda riders when he goes across the country. I think it's the only time that he has to do this, really, because he can only do this at this particular time. The moment it's registered as a campaign period, nobody can even be seen to give out any coin, even 10 shillings in a harambe, because at that point there cannot be any facilitation of any voter during that particular period. So at this particular time, he's able to engage with them, he's able to assist them, give them a small taste of what they should expect in his presidency should he be elected. So in my view, I find it to be quite prudent. It is a time when we're also Kenyans are going through significant hardship. We've seen this money is not going to give bribes to people who have attended his rallies. No, it is being given out to the circles of women who are in marketplaces, being given to boda circles. So there is a direct injection of those funds to particular groups of persons. So in my view, I find it completely warranted. I would do the same if I had those kind of resources, and I'm sure even my fellow panelists there will do the same, because at this particular time, it's good to be benevolent when God has blessed you at this particular juncture, but when it comes to the election campaigning period, any act of such a nature would be considered contravening the election rules and would turn out to look at like bribery in the end.
But apart from questions surrounding the source of this money, I mean, from a public policy point of view, shouldn't he be looking at the policy in terms of what entails the Women Empowerment Fund, Youth Fund in the country, and use such mechanisms perhaps to channel resources to the needy in society, the mama mboga and the likes?
Well, again, such funds are usually user triggered. So in the event that these market women do not go to the Women Fund and actually apply and get their allocation, the funds will never come to them. Secondly, he's been overseeing these particular funds over the duration of his period as Deputy President. There's been a big challenge in terms of uptake, in terms of distribution of those funds, disbursements. So if that has not been reaching to the ground, and now he believes that this would be a much quicker way to reinvigorate the economy, and probably he's mentioned it in cabinet to his fellow, to his boss, the president, to do much more in terms of reinvigorating the economy, and it has failed. Don't blame the man if he decides that he has enough in his wallet to be able to stimulate the economy while he does his tours. Okay.
Yes. Sako, where on the fence do you sit on this particular matter? The politics of campaigning on ideologies or campaigning on money? Talk to us.
I agree with my colleague Machesi. Machesi is very brilliant. He understands these things very well, but he's using facts to reach a conclusion clearly, which are probably most people do. I think it's wrong to pretend to be able to fund these national development initiatives through handouts to groups, to individuals, and so on. I thought on this one that I used to stand with the DP in terms of his interest in articulating an ideology and policy choices within it, and perhaps later indicating how they would be financed. That's how it goes. And if that is convincing, then people should vote for him on that basis. But on the basis of being able to hand out money at a time during a campaign, you pass through someplace, Gondele, Busia, or someplace, once in about 5 years, and you leave a little money behind, should not be enough to elect you in. You should be elected on the expectation, what kind of policy thrust, what kind of transformation that people can expect. So I think that approach is done by governments too. You know, governments take food supplies at a critical time, in some places about election time. That's all bribery. I think that we should spend the time explaining clearly what it is that we intend to do. I know for the individual marketer that has received some handout, given the desperate situation, it's useful for that household. They should enjoy it, they should take it, they should consider him a kind person, but they should say, what kind of presidency would my kind person have? Would he continue to do the same or not? I just don't think it is a sustainable tool in a democratic setting.
Okay, the sustainability is a big question. Perhaps let's take a short break. Martins, will be back with your comments on that, even as we get to talk money matters. Just recently, Kenyans were informed they have until the 21st of November to submit comments on the draft budget policy statement, which projects a 3.3 trillion shilling budget for the 2022-2023 financial year. So Kenyans are looking at what will trigger more taxes and perhaps even with the big promises being handed currently in terms of reducing the taxes in the country. We'll try and evaluate what this means going forward in the next financial year, even as we talk politics. Stay with us. You're watching Morning Express.